Are we videoing this?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah. I'm having a bad hair day though.
What else is new?
All right, we'll just let it roll. My background's kind of lame.
People loved your background last time and they want to see more of your surfboards.
Yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. Welcome, everybody. The Spit Podcast. Scott Bass, David Lee Scales with you here on this Wednesday, July 22nd, I believe. And good day to you, David Scales.
Afternoon sesh.
Yeah, afternoon.
Usually do the morning, the dawn patrol at 8 a.m. I mean, that's not dawn patrol, but normally 8 a.m. We're doing afternoon sesh today.
Yeah, good afternoon. It feels odd, and we've both probably worked really hard today, and we're a bit tired. At least I am. I'm speaking for you, though.
I just got home. I was rushing to get home, and look what was on my doorstep.
Wow.
How's that image? Have you seen that cover shot yet?
No, it's pretty cool.
Mikey Febb's on the cover of the Surfer's Journal, but the way that it's cropped, I mean, it's a rad shot, but the way that the image is composed, a little bit of foreground wave is creeping up into the photographer's lens of the water housing. So it actually blocks out Mikey's board and feet. You can just kind of see him from the shins up as he's doing a front side carve. Arms kind of flared out, six-pack flexing. And it's a rad shot. It's a water shot, obviously, but it's cool. I love it.
Yeah. No, I would agree with everything you said. There's nothing that's not fantastic about that cover.
I think they've been nailing the cover shots for the last year or so.
Yeah, kudos to who's the photo editor there these days.
You know, I just heard today Sean Parkin is no longer the photo editor there, so I'm looking it up right now. It says his name still, but I think that's breaking news that Sean's no longer there because his name is still in this masthead. But yeah, hard copy of an old school surf mag right here.
Yeah, what's it like? I forget what that's like.
Isn't it odd?
Joy? Did you have joy fill your heart when you came home and saw a surf magazine?
I did. I mean, honestly, I look forward to it, and I will do a once through tonight on the sofa, just kind of a thumbing through, and then go back over the course of the weekend and read whatever it is that stood out to me from the once over. And sometimes, to be honest, I don't read anything because nothing jumps out at me. And other times I read it cover to cover. So it's kind of different every month. Look at this one too, out of the archives.
Yeah, buddy.
How's that?
Fabulous French surf. Yeah, there's a gorgeous woman with bodacious tatas.
half of the cover shot of this John Severson publication, the International Surfing Magazine, when it was 75 cents. But yeah, half of the cover shot is a female, an unnamed female, posing in a bikini.
That's interesting. You know, there was always much debate about what's going to go on the cover each and every month when I was at Surfer Magazine. And the idea of splitting the cover in half and having one image and then a totally different image wouldn't fly. That was not going to fly.
It was a bad decision for sure.
There was always just turmoil between the photo editor, the publisher, the other editors. And anytime I spoke up, they're just like, get out of the office.
Check this out. I just opened this up. This image or this issue is volume 7, number 1 from 1966. There's a fiction piece in here called Big Day at Bad Wasser, written by Ronald Colby. Do you think Ronald Colby has any affiliation with Rob Colby?
I mean, maybe. I kind of semi-doubt it, but it wouldn't surprise me. It'd be cool if it did.
Colby's not that common of a name.
I've met his father.
Was his name Ronald?
I don't know.
How's this ad?
That's an interesting ad. Who's that for?
You read it. I can't.
Sandcomer. I guess it's board shorts?
I guess so. Hey, for anybody who's like listening to the audio wondering what the heck we're looking at and talking, go to YouTube right now and you could see these amazing surf magazines on our YouTube channel. at Surf Splendor on YouTube. We have a whole channel dedicated, and we're filming our episodes now. Scott and I are remote. We filmed last week at Surfing Heritage and Culture Center, but despite us being remote, we're still filming this on Zoom. So come check us out. We'll embed all the imagery of everything that we discuss, surf film footage, Instagram footage, all that stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Well, hey, dude, we have
hard yards.
Yeah, we have a lot to discuss in a short period of time today because given that it's the afternoon, we have social obligations in about an hour. But I have so much feedback about Surf Etiquette 101. Kelly, I dropped the news right as we were closing last week that somebody texted from the airport saying Kelly is en route to Waco. We've now seen all of that footage. It's pretty freaking rad. And then, of course, the WSL dropped a bunch of big news on Friday after we last recorded. So where should we begin?
Well, we could begin with Jericho passing away, which is
arguably the biggest news.
Yeah, I would suggest it's the biggest news. Well, I don't know, arguably the biggest news, but Jericho died of a massive heart attack. He was 55 years old. And I was just watching, in fact, I'll just let it be known that my must-see moment comes from the Encyclopedia of Surfing, which put together a 3-minute clip of Derek to a Steely Dan mashup. I don't know if you saw this. Did you happen to catch this? It's really, really good.
No.
Yeah, go to Encyclopedia of Surfing, and it's also on Nobody Surf TV. They grabbed the clip, but Matt Warshaw did a great job of putting together this footage of Jericho, just absolutely, as we know, just absolutely sort of dancing with Pipeline, very much sort of from the same, I don't want to say lineage, but surfs in the same manner as Jerry Lopez. He does the dance. He doesn't overpower it. He absolutely sort of, plays with it a little bit and gets incredible barrels. But what's kind of fascinating is the footage of him in the Gotcha Pro at Sandy Beach. And there's some great backside surfing. And there's a moment, David, at 2 minutes and 14 seconds, which I just think is incredible. And it's Sunset Beach. And it's Jericho. He's riding this wave. It's just your classic sunset, sort of a lot of water moving at him, a lot of things coming around, a lot of sections, a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, Sunset Beach. And he's handling it, maneuvering around. And at 2 minutes and 14 seconds into this clip, he just does the most stylish under the lip snap with just so much panache and so much just raw style, if there is such a thing as raw style. But it's really, really great. And I'll tell you what it also does is it makes me realize that Sunset Beach has to be on the world tour.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's great. I did not see that clip. And of course, Derek is my Duke of the week. And if you will bear with me, I'll read from Matt Warshaw's EOS entry for Derek that was written long before all of this news transpired. But said, stylish Hawaiian goofy foot pro from the North Shore of Oahu, 1993 world champ, 2-time winner of the Pipe Masters and 4-time winner of the Triple Crown. Ho was born in 1964 in Kailua, the son of a former beach boy and Army enlisted man, and the second cousin to popular Honolulu nightclub entertainer Don Ho. He began riding waves at the age of 3, followed in the footsteps of his surf-obsessed older brother, Michael, who went on to become one of the world's best-known and most durable pros. Derek was a talented but indifferent young surfer, became a small-time criminal during his teenage years and was arrested several times. At the age of 18, he spent 10 days in prison, after which he dedicated his career to surfing. The following year, he placed third in the 1983 Pipe Masters and finished the pro season ranked 30th. For the next 6 years, Ho climbed steadily up the ratings, all the way to runner-up in 1989. In 1990, he fell to 6th. However, in 1992, he dropped all the way to 30th. His career at that point was already remarkable. He'd won the 1984 Duke Kahanamoku Classic. His brother, Michael, finished second, won the Pipe Masters in 1986 and finished second in 91. And then he won the Triple Crown in 84, 86, 88. In 85, Derek and Michael became the first siblings to both place at the in the year-end Pro Tour Top 16. But following his 1992 season, it seemed obvious that Ho's career had peaked. He's an artist who appears loath to butcher his style for a few decimal points more on the judge's card, surf journalist Derek Hine once said of Ho, finishing off by predicting the handsome 28-year-old Hawaiian had, quote, no chance at a world title. Kelly Slater from Florida had just won his first of what was assumed to be a long string of championships. Ho was ranked 5th after 9 events in 93, with just the Pipe Masters remaining. The final day of the contest was held in excellent 6 to 8 foot surf, and as the 4 contenders ahead of him were all eliminated after the quarterfinals, Ho smoothly won the contest and the championship, along with his 4th title, Triple Crown title. He was the first male Hawaiian to win the Pro Tour, and at 29, he was the eldest men's tour pro, winning up to that point. The 1993 Masters was his only win of the season and the last Pro Tour win of his career. He dropped to 24th in the ratings the following year, and in early 97, his world circuit career was ended with a knee injury. The smallest male world champ at 5'4", 125 pounds, Ho was quick-footed with a sharp, angular, slightly formulated attack. Tube riding was his strength, and in hollow waves, especially at Pipeline, he rode with sublime precision and elegance. 2-time world champ Tom Carroll was Ho's equal at Pipe, but the Australian's approach was rougher and more powerfully driven, whereas Ho time and again drew perfect lines through the deepest part of the wave. Updated the approach invented in the 70s by ace Jerry Lopez. Ho was an intense, withdrawn, sometimes prickly surf world figure. He was quietly and justifiably critical of the surf press in 1994, as magazine reporters all but ignored and defended the defending world champion and instead focused on Kelly Slater. Ho dryly mentioned to Australia's Surfing Life magazine that, quote, put it this way, I haven't been subjected to the overexposure world champ normally gets, end quote.
All right.
So there is Michael Ho, died at 55 of heart attack. I'm sorry, Derek, thank you. Sorry, Derek Ho, of heart attack at age 55.
Matt Warshaw's piece is great. You know, obviously it gives you a lot to chew on. One of the things about Jericho, I think perhaps for me anyway, the most powerful, I guess, act, if you will, considering that careers and pro surfers have maybe 1 act or 2 act or 3 acts. Jericho, after, like, let's say, I don't even know, like 98, 99, 2000, there was some run in there where he kind of fell in with the wrong crowd and started to kind of make some bad life choices and went down sort of a dark place, you know. And, you know, many of us have been there. And so for him to come out of that, it wasn't widely reported in the surf press. Like you just mentioned in Matt's piece, you know, Jericho didn't get a lot of press.
Right.
But the fact that he, like I say, quote unquote, made some bad life choices and then found his way out of that and sort of reestablished himself as the great surfer that he is out at Pipe and other locations, and sort of reemerged at least in the scene on the North Shore as a healthy and happy surfer is pretty powerful. And again, it's not, you know, something that you're going to read about, but I think that might be the greatest achievement of Jericho's short life, was that he was able to kind of wrestle away from the demons and find himself again.
Redemption story.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's a good way to commemorate Derek's life and open the show. Did you want to get to surf etiquette? I think this might be, I think this is an important segment that we're going to need to revisit regularly and update.
I totally agree. I almost feel like we have too much stuff to talk about with regard to that. I'm sure you saw Fat Aki's email.
Let's get to Fat Aki in a second. Fat Aki always delivers bangers.
He does.
We were trying to figure out a name for this segment. Surf Etiquette 101 is not the name, but that's kind of a description of what it should be. How do you feel about Kook College?
I'm okay with Kook College. I think Kook College is kind of endearing. I'm okay with Kook College. In fact, I like Kook College. Let's call it Kook College. From this point forward, henceforth, it shall be known as.
This was a listener suggestion. He gave me a few, and gosh, he deserves credit. I'll figure out who it was and give him credit next show. But the idea being, of course, Scott was noticing that there's not a lot of etiquette in the lineup any longer. And as we have wave pools start to churn out more and more vowels, we're going to need a Kook College. We're going to need people to run through this etiquette course before they paddle out in the lineup. So firstly, a number of people sent me photographs of signs at their local beaches that give you a certain code of ethics. These signs are inadequate. So here's one all the way from Western Oz to Oregon, there are these signs at the beach, surf etiquette and safety signs that explain right of way, paddling out, remember to communicate. Here's a little bit of information about danger. And I'll post these signs, of course, on YouTube and on Instagram even. And they're illustrations that show arrows with what you should and shouldn't do. Okay, that's fine. I'm glad that these signs exist, but this is not what Kook College is. Kook College is a list of rules that we're going to bequeath upon you. Scott, we're going to go through these one by one. You either thumbs up them or thumbs down them. How do you feel about just this general idea, do no harm? This is our
thumbs up.
This is our Hippocratic oath of surfing. Everything rolls through do no harm.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a way to live life.
Agreed.
Do no harm.
This next batch of a couple came from a buddy in Kauai. He said number one, buy local. Number two, respect locals. Number three, no leash equals priority. And number four, hold on to your board.
Well, okay, there's a lot to chew on there. Buy local, I guess he means buy local surfboards and buy local gear and buy from the local surf shop.
I think actually I added that one, but yes, that is what I meant by it. Respect locals.
Respect locals. Well, I think we should respect everybody.
But I think what he means is, but I think what he means is if you're showing up at a spot that you're not a local at, you kind of defer to the locals.
Yeah, there's a certain art to all of this. Is so nuanced, David, as you know. I mean, each and every one of these rules, every time I hear one, I want to throw up a little bit. And then I realize, oh yeah, we decided to do this, to talk about this. Like just the idea of those signs. Like I've seen the one at Rincon. I've seen the one at Steamer Lane. I've seen them. They're around. They're everywhere. I don't know why that sort of the rebel in me kind of just, I roll my eyes and I kind of just want to go, whatever, I don't know. I'm so conflicted here with this, but let's get back to respect the locals. I think we should respect everybody. And then the nuance in respecting the locals is, so to me, there's a spot here in San Diego that's I'm not going to name it out of respect for it and the locals. So that's one of the nuances, right? Like I'll name Swamis. Who gives a shit? Everybody surfs Swamis. It's ridiculous. But this one spot I'm not going to name because I respect the locals and I respect the spot and I respect what it stands for. And at this spot, when I paddle out there, I don't go straight out to the peak, and sit and kind of puff my chest up. I will inch my way out. Hopefully I will catch 2 or 3 waves on the inside just to kind of get my feet going, get my mojo and get a couple rides so that when it is my turn, I'm not going to blow it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the nuances of respect the locals and respect the local spot. When you're paddling out and you get an opportunity to whip it on a 1-footer, whip it on the 1-footer and go. And maybe do that 2 or 3 times before you're even halfway out or 3/4 of the way out. Once you do get sort of to the main pecking zone, if this is a legitimate surf spot and you're not from there, stop, sit up on your board, and just take notice. And really what you're trying to do is let the locals around you know that you're not going to be the guy that paddles straight out, puffs his chest, and goes, when's my wave? You know, figuratively. And so I'll leave it with that and let you chew on that.
So this Kook College is going to have the rules in bold, and then small text next to it will be all of the nuance of the rule.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. So
right?
I didn't know we had, okay. It sounds like you're writing a textbook, for God's sake.
I think we are.
Okay.
This is our gift. This is our legacy, Scott. This podcast, people won't even remember, but they will remember Kook College.
Well, the nuance, it's all, you know, what's the phrase we're going to use here? I mean, the magic is in the nuance, I guess.
Yeah, but I love the idea of generalities too, because that makes it more fun.
Right. I like I said, I'm conflicted, you know, like there's just so much. I mean, some of the things I just said at certain spots, I won't do those things, you know,
of course.
It's just, you know, it's almost like some spots are too far gone, and there's no way you can kind of reel it all in. Yep.
But we're going to do our best. We are going to do our best to create a definitive handbook for everybody that applies to everybody everywhere in the world. No leash.
Your friend from Kauai, yeah, the no leash thing. Repeat that one.
No leash equals priority.
Absolutely agree with that.
You do?
And I actually wrote for Surfer Magazine. I wrote a whole piece on not wearing a leash, and I've been a huge fan of not wearing a leash, as you know, David, for a long, long time. That being said, I get it. People need to wear leashes, safety, beginners, blah, blah, blah.
So I get.
So again, I'm conflicted. I'm conflicted, you know. But,
I know the problem with this rule is that you and I understand exactly why he is saying this, is because if you're Joel Tudor, like, and you're not wearing a leash and you happen to lose your board, you have to swim in to get it. And all of that work means that you deserve to kind of have your priority in the pecking order. But the problem is we're creating a list for Kook College. So it's going to be Kooks that are reading this and applying these rules. And the Kook is going to go, oh, well, that means I don't have to wear a leash. And they're going to go out and kook it in front of everybody, lose their board, and create a lot of
that. I'm fine with that. I'm kind
because then they're going to have to swim and they get out of the lineup for a bit.
Yeah, a couple things here. Guys that don't wear leashes are really good surfers generally, and they don't lose their board very rarely.
Yeah.
Now they're not, you know, punting airs on the last section at lowers. I guess even if you're doing that, you're not really losing your board. You're right there anyway. But so the idea that a guy without a leash gets priority, the other side of that is guys that don't wear leashes get plenty of waves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
totally.
It's not like they need to throw their ankles in the air and go, look, I don't have a leash on. Plus the other side of that is nobody's going to know if you don't have a leash. Like, it's not something you generally kind of notice, you know, like the second thing you notice, you know, besides their wetsuit and their board and their hairdo.
Yeah.
You know, like you're not noticing if a guy's not wearing a leash. So do they get priority? No. I mean, again, I think guys that don't wear leashes get their waves. They're usually good surfers. My thing about the no leash thing is what you spoke to earlier, which is guys that if you don't wear a leash and you fall, you've created some space in the lineup for other people to catch waves because you now have to swim in.
Yeah.
And it makes you a better surfer.
It
and
does.
Of course, we're going to get the emails. What about the big log hipster guy and his log's rolling towards me and it's going to hurt me and it's going to hurt my kid? And my answer to that is surfing is dangerous. Go do something else. You know, like, I don't know, take up squirt guns or bowling or, you know.
Squirt guns? Is that a sport?
No, but it seems non-dangerous. I'm trying to think of benign activities that they could take up because surfing's dangerous. I mean, you and me, we've had broken arms, dislocated shoulders, you know, concussions, stepped on urchins, blah, 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 you name it, hit rocks. It's part of the deal. And dealing with a loose surfboard is part of the deal. And you know what? It might come and get me. It might come and get you. You know, tomorrow we might get hit by a board. But I just, the upside to not wearing a leash is way better than the downside to, oh, whoops, I got hit by a board.
Yeah. Well, do you want to read Fat Aki's email or should I?
Go ahead.
So Fat Aki is a longtime listener, contributor to the show. He said, rule number 1, be stoked. If you're not going out there to have fun, particularly as a beginner, go do something else. MMA, bike riding, rock climbing, whatever. This needs to be fun. And guess what? When I see stoked beginners, I am way more likely to be helpful and supportive. Scott, how do you feel about rule be stoked?
I'm sort of on the fence about this one. I like the general concept, but many times I go surfing to kind of get stoked. Like maybe I've had a bad day. I want to go rinse off the stress. I'm not necessarily in a great mood. Maybe, like the idea that I have to be stoked is sort of, that's just never going to happen. It's not.
Okay. I agree with you. We like the philosophy of this, but this is not going to be mandated as a rule in Kook College.
Yeah. I think and so this one, be stoked, when I read it, I thought about it. I like the idea of understand that when you're going in the ocean, you're going to feel stoked when you get out.
Right.
So however we phrase that, but understand that you're not going out there to get a photograph of you doing an aerial. You're not going out there. My feeling is guaranteed, no matter who you are, where you are, when you are, when you surf and when you come in after surfing, you feel better. Everybody I know feels better. I paddled out the other day in the most hideous, cold, crappy surf. Guy like Michael and Milton Willis were like, just go out, just go out. It was crappy, south wind, crappy. They're like, just go out. You're going to feel better. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go out. I paddled out. I barely caught 2 waves. It was horrible. It was like the worst session of my life as far as the quality of the surf. But sure enough, I came in and I felt better. And I think that's rule number 1, that understand that when you come out of this session, you're going to feel better. And that's going to, by the way, that's going to transcend and be passed along to everyone you run into for the rest of that day.
So this is all great philosophy. Is this a rule in Kook College?
No, it's not.
It's not. This is a different book. We need to write a secondary book.
Right.
Okay.
Philosophy.
Yeah, we can title that portion of the book "Garen's Barbarians."
Absolutely, absolutely. If we don't, it'll be a Travis Sham mockery.
All right, Fat Aki rule number 2: be respectful. Again, this is going to fall under the philosophy category, but I'll read it anyways. Be respectful of the surfers around you, of the ocean, of your own limits. Recognize that there is always a pecking order, and you are at the bottom of it. If by chance you make another surfer angry, even if you do not know why, apologize and let them know you are a beginner.
I like this rule.
I kind of do too.
I think if this is for Kooks, if this is Kook College and we're teaching the VALs, the vulnerable adult learners and the kids, and I think be respectful and apologize is a good rule.
All right. It's getting added. Congrats, Fat Aki. 1 for 2. Number 3, if you cannot swim it, you cannot surf it. And he said, you're spot on with this one, Scott Bass. If you cannot swim out and paddle, do not paddle out. I'm sorry. If you cannot swim out and back, then you do not paddle out.
This is an absolute rule in Kook College. This is a guaranteed.
Fat Aki. I'm making notes along the way. Fat Aki, that's 2 for 3.
Fat Aki, that's my rule, bro.
Yeah, he did. He said you're spot on with that one. Okay, number 4, go down the beach. You will know when you're ready to surf around others, and guess what? It is not now. Garen's Barbarians. If there's any question as to if you are already in this, if there is any question as to if you are ready to surf in a pack, then follow this rule.
Yeah, go down the beach. This is a great rule for Kook College.
Okay. The answer is yes on that. Fat Aki rule number 5, do not ditch your board. Hold on to it for dear life at all times, even if this means you get worked. You are responsible for not hurting others with a ditched board. And by the way, my buddy in Kauai also said that hold on to your board. So I think that's definitely getting added.
Absolutely agree with this. If there's I rarely talk to guys about rules and trying to like set them straight with etiquette because I'm over it. But this is the one thing that I will paddle up to a guy and generally I'll just give you kind of how it works. If there's some guy and he's bailing his board, I will paddle up to him and I will sit up on my board. And the very first thing I say to him is, look, I'm quite confident that you could kick the living shit out of me. I'm not here to fight. I'm here to tell you that if you can't hold on to your board, you have to go in. It's that simple. Hold on to your fucking board or go in. Again, I'm not doubting. I'm not paddling up to you to get in your face. I'm telling you, you could probably beat the shit out of me. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But if you can't hold on to your board, this is etiquette 101. This should be the #1 rule. If you can't hold on to your board, go in. You're not ready for this. Go lift weights, do something, learn how to turtle or whatever the hell it's called.
How is that conversation generally gone when you deliver it?
Good. It goes good because you want to you want to de-escalate. You want to take the power out of it. I'm not there to try to throw my ego around, but if your board's about to bash me in the head, which is funny because I was just saying, remember I was saying, don't wear a leash. Who cares if you get bashed in the head? Again, I'm so conflicted about rules in surfing. The general rule and the #1 rule in surfing should be, there should be no rules.
No, I disagree. And by the way, those two things, don't wear a leash, or if you don't wear a leash, you have priority, and don't bury your board, are very, very different things. Because the person who's surfing well enough to not wear a leash is trying not to lose their board. The person ditching their board is intentionally trying to lose their board. Those are exactly opposite. So, you know what's hilarious, by the way, and I never brought this up publicly because I didn't want to shame, but here I go. Eric Logan the CEO of the WSL, posted a video of himself. Might have been photo. I don't remember if it was a photo or video, but it was an image of himself ditching his board in Manhattan Peach Beer on a set wave on a sizable day. It wasn't like huge, but it was, a head high wave. Him and Jesse Miley Dyer paddling out next to each other on North Side, and a set wave breaks in front of them and they both ditch their boards. And he posted it with like, haha, Jesse and I copped one on the head today. I had no less than a dozen people DM that to me and go, are you kidding me? The CEO of the WSL is bragging about ditching his board on a set wave. He doesn't even know that he should be embarrassed that he couldn't duck dive his board, And what was funny about it is he posted that. So then Jesse reposted it, and then he reposted Jesse's reposting. So whereas the story only lives for 24 hours on Instagram, that one had a 36-hour life cycle because of the reposting. And again, like I said, no less than a dozen people sent that one to me just to point fun. But we can send this Kook College book over to Elo, be like, Elo, Scott's going to come up to you, sit up on his board, and tell you not to throw hands, but to learn how to duck dive.
Anyway, I'm with Fat Aki. This should be a rule in the Kook College. Is it Kook College? Yeah.
Kook College. Rule number 6 from Fat Aki, always look back. No snaking ever. As a beginner, you do not snake. No retribution snakes, no gambling that the guy won't make the section, nothing. This shouldn't be an issue at all because you have already listened to our previous rule, which is go down the beach where you were surfing alone. And even alone, you should be looking back and making sure nobody is behind you.
This is a rule. This is a great rule for Kooks, for beginners. This is a rule that all Vals should listen to and adhere to.
Dude, I've been surfing a long time. I still accidentally snake people because I don't look back. I look before the wave's coming. I know what the problem is I'm relying too heavily on knowing my surroundings. So I think I know where everybody is. And when a wave comes, I have already assessed those things. But when I paddle, occasionally I don't look back because I think I put too much value in knowing my surroundings. And occasionally I have burned guys.
Well, see, that's where I'm confused a little bit about Kook College because these rules are for beginners, right? Because
yeah, but I should still be looking back.
Yeah, but this rule in particular, like, I wouldn't say this rule applies to you and I.
Okay.
No snaking ever? I can think of a bunch of reasons why I would snake somebody.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
One of them is they bailed their board in front of me. I'm going to burn that fucking guy.
For sure.
That's really bad. Actually, I'm not. I don't know. The thing about rules is they bring out the worst in me, kind of like, you know, like this idea that I'm going to quote unquote burn that guy. That's not really how I want to live my life. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to go out and have vengeance in my surf session. I don't want revenge. I don't want.
Let me ask you this. When is it okay to punitively burn somebody?
Well, for me, internally, I don't think it ever is. I think that because if I'm doing that, then I'm in a place where I don't have forgiveness in my heart, one, where I'm not, I'm letting my ego and pride dictate my decisions and my deeds and probably my words. So for me, they don't really, they're not congruent with the ideal that I'm setting for myself, which I always fall short of. But, you know,
I always appreciate these podcast, meditative, philosophical meanderings, but when you're in the water and you're in the surf headspace where it's all id and you're trying to feed your ego, then when is it okay to punitively burn a guy?
My ego is well fed. I don't need to feed it anymore.
You know the question that I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because you do burn guys occasionally. I've seen you burn guys.
But I'm not stoked on it. Like,
no.
Proud of my actions.
The interaction that you and I had it was a huge day at your local spot, and you were getting out of the water and I was getting into the water, and you pulled up in your truck and you had shame. You had the exact consternation in your face that you're having with this list of etiquette, where you were just like, I'm like, dude, the waves are pumping. Did you have a blast? And you're like, I'm not exactly sure if I had a blast or not. I got some really good waves. But man, there was this interaction out there that I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. And you went on to explain that you essentially burned a guy punitively because he had it coming. So tell me, when is it okay?
I mean,
when they've gotten too many waves, when they're taking off too deep.
It's so weird, right? Because it gets into this thing where, like, are our surf sessions sport? In other words, when we go to the basketball court and we pick up a basketball and we start playing basketball against somebody, it's sport. It's on. Like, it's okay to block and defend and, you know, try to not let the guy score. And so sometimes I look at my surf sessions like, hey, we're out here just we're competing. This is a competition. You know, this guy's paddling past me as if his life depends on it. So, okay, here I go. And, you know,
a great point.
I'll tell you something. This is a hard one for me to answer, and I'm going in so many different directions. I will tell you something funny. That's kind of embarrassing, but I'll tell you. When I was going to school at UCSD in the 80s, 84, 85, something like that, 86, we surfed blacks all the time. That's really the only place I was surfing back then. And me and a buddy of mine had a rule, and it was 10 for 1. We used to call it 10 for 1. We'd be like, 10 for 1. And we would tell guys, if you burn me one time, I'm going to burn you 10 times. and when you excavate sort of that mentality, it's just so much ego. And I mean, I was a 22-year-old, you know, there's just so much, it's really kind of, it's really not who we should strive to be. I mean, I hate to put my dogma on everyone else, but that's the kind of thing where I'm just conflicted, you know, conflicted. And I can't even answer your question. I'm afraid to answer your question. There are answers to your question. There are times when it's okay to punitively burn somebody. And I have done it numerous times, probably within the last week.
If somebody I'll give you a list. If somebody back paddles, if somebody has snaked me on a previous wave, if I feel, maybe if it's a stand-up paddler who's not giving anybody else a turn, like they just paddle out, sit deepest, and then go on every single best wave that comes through.
I don't even
that
call
guy's
those.
Getting burned.
All of these that you mentioned to me, I've rationalized them into not even being punitive burns. They're just like, my rationalization is, okay, I guess that's how we're playing. I understand now. Here I go. You know, so, my whole thing is, like, if you're a stand-up paddler and my whole thing is, if you're paddling for every wave, then I'm going to also.
Yeah.
You know,
but the burn.
It's not like, I don't even look at it like, I'm just like, hey, we're just doing this together. Let's just do it together. You know, like, I'm going, you're going. Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but the way that I'm defining it is you taking off in front of somebody. That qualifies as a burn or a snake. So if somebody,
I don't ever look, if I take off in front of somebody, I don't necessarily always think I'm burning or snaking them. It's just my turn. I'm going.
Well, well, then we need to add some.
You can call it a burn. You might consider it a burn. I consider it my turn.
I'm talking about for the purpose of this conversation, for our ability to communicate it to our listenership, we need to have the same language that we're using.
Okay. I'm just saying this is where the nuance comes in. Literally each and every situation is completely different. It has to be explained at length. I need to rationalize, explain, and justify. And if I can't do that, I'm probably wrong. There's a great, one of my mentors.
Go ahead.
One of my mentors used to say, Scott, if you have to rationalize, if you have to justify, or you have to explain any situation at all, you're wrong.
Perfect. I was going to say, if I'm having this much difficulty communicating to you about this conversation over a podcast, the people in the lineup have no chance with you, and the people in your home, maybe I need to have
I can't even figure myself out. Are you kidding me?
Because we both speak English, and I'm having a hard time understanding the definitions for the language that you're using.
I'm out there, dude. I'm
okay. All right. Case. All right, so we're all in agreement, meaning me and all the listeners are all in agreement about that. And apparently you're in agreement too. Hockey rule number 7.
Let me ask you this. This is what goes on between my ears. I will be surfing, like sitting, waiting for a wave, just wait wherever I am, and somebody will paddle out. And I'll immediately go, oh, that guy. And then I'll create an entire situation that is going to happen with that person that hasn't even happened, but I will escalate it in my brain to a place where I'm already figuring out what I'm going to say to him in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're dealing with here, David. I'm just letting you know.
Dude, I for sure do that. I hate it because it actually ruins the entire session.
Totally.
And I'm not even looking at waves. I'm trying to figure out where they're at in the lineup and I'm positioning based on them. Like it's a nightmare.
So the rule with that is when that occurs, you need to paddle up to them and go, hey, how you doing? And just change your whole my whole BS trip that's going on inside my head.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Fat
Talking
Hockey.
About a rabbit hole, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Fat Hockey. Jeez. Fat Hockey rule number 7, which I think this is a great rule. Get out of the way. If a surfer is on a wave coming towards you, make every effort to get out of the way. Move towards the breaking wave, away from the shoulder, even if you get worked. The quickest way to get harsh is to ruin someone's wave by drifting to the shoulder. Be active and aware in not ruining another surfer's wave. This is
what I love about Fat Hockey.
Yeah.
Just by the fact that he said the quickest way to get harsh. See, I know some things about Fat Hockey you might know too, but he's from PV. He's from Palos Verdes. That's a PV phrase because I have like at least 10 friends that are my best friends from Palos Verdes. The idea of getting harsh just cracks me up.
Well, he's right though. I mean, I see even intermediate surfers doing this, like paddling up the face of the wave, blocking, and even like at lowers, this happens all of the time, where there'll be Griffin Colapinto flying down the line and people fully blocking his path for where he was going to do something.
Well, see, here's the funny thing. There's those, I'm sorry to interrupt, David, but those signs that you talked about earlier in this podcast, there's a sign at Rincon or Steamer Lane, one of those signs that has the drawings on it, literally has drawings where it's like, don't paddle out in the impact zone, paddle to the shoulder. And I look at it like, that's a horrible thing to say. What you want them to do is paddle to the impact zone.
Exactly.
And, anyway, so go ahead.
And also this is where a lot of injuries happen. This is where guys, maybe it's barreling Kira or something. And people are paddling towards the shoulder and then their tail of their board is sticking out while somebody's getting barreled and they cop a board to the head. So like Fat Aki said, paddle towards the impact zone. You're the one who's going to get worked. You're going to potentially get pushed in and get stuck on the inside for 20 minutes. That's your problem. And so heed that advice. That is definitely, beginners need to know that more than anybody. Final rule number 8 from Fat Aki is no GoPros. You do not need a GoPro. The footage you get of yourself surfing in the first few years is absolutely worthless. You will be judged if you paddle out with one in your mouth or even worse, on your board. If you have a GoPro mounted on the front of your surfboard, you're either Anthony Walsh getting shacked at pipe or an absolute kook. There is no in between. So
I'm okay with this rule. I think, first of all, that the whole GoPro thing is gone. Like, I don't really see tons of guys with GoPros anymore.
When you do, are they kooks or not?
Yeah.
100% of the time. 100% of the time.
Yeah.
So
I'm okay with the GoPro, no GoPros, but I don't think it's an issue. I think it's
I also feel like this is a time sensitive rule. This didn't apply 10 years ago. It won't apply 3 years from now. So I don't know that it needs to go into stone.
Now that I think about it, I don't really give a shit. Like, I don't care. Get a bunch of crappy photos of yourself. Who gives a shit? Like, what is it? Doesn't affect me at all. Just makes you look like an idiot. So,
all right. So this is not going into Kook College.
I don't think so.
I think we need to keep the rules
tight. If anything, I think the rule should be get a GoPro. Put it on your board. That way we know exactly who we're dealing with.
That's the identifier. Or if you actually had to take a Kook College course, that's our identifier.
Yeah. That guy must be a graduate. In fact, when you graduate, we're going to give you a GoPro at your commencement.
The reality is we wouldn't know because they should be down the beach.
Right. Exactly. I'm getting to that age where I go down the beach now. I'm regressing.
So they need to be down the beach from you and I, who are already halfway down the beach.
Right. Keep going. Keep going. This is our spot.
All right. Well, thanks, Fat Aki, for those. Rainbow, other longtime listener and contributor, sent us a couple of photos from Surfing Magazine. Used to have the surfing rule book, and they were always comedic.
Yeah, a little bit, and there was also some truth to them.
There was always a lot of truth to them, for sure. So I'll read out of one of them. Rule number 534: wearing one booty is like wearing one glove. There was a moment in time where pros like Chris Ward, there's footage of him in What's Really Going On wearing one booty, or maybe it was What's Really Going Wrong. And I don't know if it was just he was such a derelict that he lost a booty on the way to the beach or in the car, so he only had one on, but it was often the front booty. So in my 16-year-old brain, when I was seeing guys do that, it was like, oh, they have traction for their back foot, and they want added traction for their front foot that's on the wax, so they're using one booty for that. But maybe
he's the king of that. I hope Chris will chime in on this, but Chris Cote he had a booty that had Velcro on it, and he had I'm pretty sure he had a Velcro front booty.
And a Velcro on his surfboard?
I hope he'll chime in and either correct me or validate this.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he had a Velcro booty with Velcro on the deck of his board for his front foot.
So I hate that idea because I want to move my front foot around almost on every single surfboard I own.
I have a friend that would had a front foot strap that he would slide his foot into.
Does that seem ridiculous to you?
Seems dangerous.
But again, don't you prefer to kind of wiggle your foot around?
Yeah, I think, there's certain guys with certain boards that it's like, look, no matter what, this is where my foot goes on this board. I kind of understand that. I'm not of that. I've always wanted to be liberated and be able to move around. So,
I mean, the other thing is I don't know where the exact sweet spot for my front foot is until I get a couple sessions in on a surfboard. So, I mean, to the idea that I could commit to my board and punch holes into it to put the strap in or even to put the Velcro on, unless you had a giant patch of Velcro so that you could, but I guess even then, once you apply
he had a giant patch of Velcro. I think,
but even then, once you apply your foot, it'd be hard to strip it up and then replace it down.
I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just getting this all wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Leave it. I like it. All right. From Surfing Rulebook, rule number 476, no waving from the lineup to anyone.
I actually love this rule.
I do too. That's a hilarious rule.
This is a classic one, because when I see people waving to the lineup, I just shake my head. Now, again, I don't know if this should be a rule or if this falls into some other category. Like, it's just bad etiquette.
Well, that one isn't. It's from Surfing Rulebook. It's not for our book, but it's hilarious.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. If rule number 108, if someone asks you the time, add a half hour.
By the way, all of these rules from Surfing Magazine, and some of ours, as a matter of fact, fall under the greater umbrella heading of surfers are the fucking worst. Like, totally. All of these things are just so, like, you don't see, like, I don't know, marathon runners like come up with all of these little rules that have to be followed or you're not cool. It's such bullshit.
It's so, by the way, that rule, that was I don't even know if me and my friends ever discussed that, but we all absolutely did that. If someone asks you the time, I would never add a half hour, but you do add 10 to 15 minutes to the time, just because you're presuming they got to get to work and you want to get them out of the water as quick as possible.
Right, which just like excavate all of this stuff. It all comes down to like selfishness or FOMO, fear of missing out, or there's not going to be enough for me. Nobody left me a slice of pizza.
Right.
It's all pretty sophomoric, pretty 22-year-old at Black's Beach kind of thinking,
Yeah, totally. But shout out to any of the writers who put together these rules for Surfing Mag back in the day.
They're pretty funny. I remember enjoying those and getting a kick out of those. And
totally.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones worth reading, really.
By the way, when you mentioned earlier about it can be dangerous when you paddle up to the shoulder, like think about Kira or Snapper or something, and getting a board kind of shot back at you. That, I think I've told you my story where that actually happened to me. Actually, two of these rules, two of the people that violated these rules, or one guy violated two of these rules, and it came back to haunt me. I was surfing. The guy is paddling out. I'm racing past him, and he bails his board. His board comes back and comes like within maybe 3 or 4 inches of just fully taking out my head. Like it was a violent big day, and it was a violent snapping of his board at my head. And it would have, I wouldn't be surprised if it would have killed me. It would have for sure done some major trauma to my skull, maybe to my eye, or who knows. It was going to be gnarly. I went straight into the beach on that wave, dried off, got out of my wetsuit, drove to Encinitas Surfboards and bought a gaff helmet. And I wore a gaff helmet from that day for probably another 4 or 5 years, every single session I surfed, because of that one guy. Because I was like, wow, that was like a, somebody's telling me something. Go get a helmet.
Did you have any conversation with that surfer?
No, I went straight in. I was sort of traumatized by how lucky I was. It was one of those moments where you're like, oh my God, I got to go get a helmet.
It's crazy. I'll be honest. I am blown away that you and I, as individuals, but surfers in general, don't get more injured more frequently. I've had so many close calls like that where you're watching it, thinking it's the end, and you close your eyes, and then you come up unscathed, and you go, how did that even happen? Physiologically impossible, for that not to physics. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is.
You see footage too of guys in barrels, like getting, I don't know. It's at any rate. That's all I got.
An email about this. I'll give it to you real quick. I like the idea of you guys discussing surf etiquette. A few years ago, I made the mental move from a shortboard to a longboard. So I know what it's like to be out in the water and see a longboarder paddle out. I try to be considerate now that I'm a longboarder, but a clear etiquette rule should be discussed. Cheers, Greg.
I disagree. I got that email and I agreed with it at first, but as I read through all the other stuff that came through, I was like, I think we need to go universal rules. I don't think we need to give rules for longboarders, rules for guys on foils. if we're doing our job well, we should be able to distill it down into kind of like a 10 commandments scenario.
Yeah, that's commandment number 2, really, be respectful. Fat Ockies, be respectful.
Right. There you go. But I still appreciate, obviously, the sentiment and the thought.
We have 10 minutes to discuss the WSL.
Giant WSL news, but no, we got to squeeze in a Kook and a must-see moment, or I have a must-see moment in addition to yours. But the WSL, look, it's kind of old news at this point. What do you want to, what are the highlights for you?
We can break this down later too, but the highlights for me, the interesting things to me are this. The biggest one is that Pipeline Masters is going to become a QS event. Not this year. This year it's the first event in the season, but the following year they're going to make the Triple Crown a 3-banger of QSs, which means Haleiwa, Sunset, Pipeline, all QS events.
When did this news get revealed?
It's right in here. It's kind of buried in here. I'll read it to you. See if I can find it here.
Because I'm fine with that.
Okay, here it is. Wait. Okay, so in 2022, the WSL hopes to start the tour with a pipe event in February, which would be the Vulcan Pipe Pro permit, right? The CT qualifying process will evolve for 2021 onward. The WSL is hoping to peak, that this QS series will peak in Hawaii at the Triple Crown with all 3 current events, including the Pipe Masters, becoming a QS, becoming a 3-banger QS Challenger Showdown in Hawaii.
But the CT still kicks off at Pipe in February?
No. Yeah, so you get, just November to December, the Triple Crown, which is 3 QS events, Challenger Series events. Then month and a half, 2 months later, it kicks off at Pipeline with the Vulcan Pipe Pro permit. What it's called, we don't know.
Right, but that will be a CT event.
Yes, that will be a CT event.
Okay, then. So we get 2 pipe events, one for the QS and one for the CT. They're just
but the idea that
permits.
The Pipe Masters is now kind of dropping in some of its
I'd say it's moving. I mean, you could look at it that way. I think there was always a QS pipe event and there was always a CT pipe event. They've just flip-flopped. And the season doesn't end there, which is kind of which is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And I guess the big news there is that the WSL is transitioning into a finals, what they're calling the WSL Finals. So whoever are the top 5 surfers at the end of the season, based on the 11 events, get seeded into the WSL Finals Day, which will take place at a venue yet to be determined, and it'll be a rotating venue from year to year. And it'll be a men and women's event, so the top 5 women with the top 5 men, and there'll be a linear seeding format. The number 1 ranked surfer is already in the final, what we're going to call, you and I are going to call the final, so to speak. And the previous 4 surfers will be number 4 and number 5 surf against each other in heat 1. Whoever wins that heat surfs against number 3 ranked surfer. Whoever wins that heat moves on and surfs against number 2. And then whoever wins that heat surfs again against that first ranked surfer in a best of 3 finals showdown.
All of this stuff is cool. I like it. It's new. It's different. You and I like it because it's new and different, and let's try it. Why not try it? We've talked about this. My biggest concern about this is that it's 1 week. It's basically September 8th to the 16th. So it's 8 days. And I'm kind of thinking, well, why not? Like, why do we have to just pick a week? Why can't we just say from September to October, we're just going to sit and wait and let's do a strike mission. We've got just 10 people here. Let's do an Uber strike wherever the globe tells us to go, wherever the weather patterns tell us to go. We've got 2 months. Why are we like pinning it down to 1 week where we could get skunked, frankly?
Right. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think it's probably a planning issue for them. They want to be able to plan around it.
Well, for sure. I mean, and I get that. I understand that. I'm, of course, looking at it from the viewpoint of you and I, the end consumer, where we're like, you know what? it's too bad they're having it this week. It sucks. Why didn't they have it in 2 weeks when it's going to be pumping? You know, it's just, I don't know. You know, I know there are considerations probably for television, for all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel about this idea, though?
I want the event. I want the season to end at Pipeline.
Okay.
I just do.
Let's say they pick. Okay, so they haven't determined the venue yet. Let's say that they do use Pipeline as a venue, which I don't think they will. But if that was the case, how do you feel about the idea that we decide a world champ through one event at the end of the season and only 5 surfers are in it?
I think it's a good idea.
Me too.
I think a lot of sports are, you and I have talked about this. A lot of sports have changed to this format. NASCAR is one that did it. Golf does it. It makes sense. It makes sense from a revenue standpoint. It makes sense from a sponsorship standpoint, for TV, for time. It's time to do this. I'm glad they're doing it.
I think not only is it the right concept or the right kind of general idea, but the execution of it, I think, is actually really smart. I think the way that the event is structured will add dramatics. The other thing is, a lot of times throughout the season, the best surfers don't surf against each other. You know, like the fact that we got Gabriel Medina and Idolo in the final this past year of the final event of the season, and they were number 1 and number 2, it never, ever happens. So I think that the way that this whole new tour is structured ensures that underperforming surfers get bumped off. Top performing surfers have a chance to re-qualify through the Challenger Series in the off season. It makes everything a lot more competitive, gets rid of a lot of the dead weight, and then you cannot earn your way into that final event unless you are among the best surfers in the world. There's no chance that an underperformer is in the top 5 at the end of the season. But there is a chance that number 5 could actually box their way to the world championship in that final event. So I think
I love
I do too. I think it adds for a lot of dramatics.
Again, my only concern is I want it to be in good waves. And this 1 week, like, where are you going to go in September? Maybe France. Are we going to France? That could be a good call. Port Escondido is a good. I mean, there's plenty of options. Don't get me wrong. We can go through the options later. But what if that week it's just kind of shitty everywhere? Like, that could happen, you know?
Yeah, I guess it could.
What about lowers? Because this also points to lowers. September 8th, it's like, oh, guess what? Wink, wink. We're going to do it at lowers. I kind of don't want to do it at lowers. I want it to be in waves of consequence.
Yeah.
I want to be excited. And don't get me wrong. Lowers is a great, we all know lowers is great, but it's not like, I don't know. I just don't want it. I want it to be a waves of consequence. I want it to be somewhere like a killer, like Puerto Escondido.
I agree. For the final event, it needs to be dramatic waves.
Yes.
Yeah, totally agree.
We need to revisit this.
There's much more to discuss. The women are going to be surfing Chopu. Side note, I don't think they're even going to be able to pull this off. This is kind of my biggest takeaway is they were talking about starting, first of all, 2020 is canceled. They officially announced that. They said they're going to try to start 2021 in Hawaii in December and then roll into Australia in the new year. I don't think either of those things are happening. I do not think that Australia is going to want us, certainly not the Americans, in at that point. We're talking about not even opening schools until after the 1st of January, you know, like, so if kids aren't going to school locally at their local schools, you think they're going to let international travelers come and be transient and blow in and blow back out? There's no chance. And by the way,
it's guys like you that don't wear masks that are causing the problem.
You're not wearing a mask right now. Dude, I do wear a mask.
You and your Orange County buddies. Do you want the NFL season? Do you want school? Do you want Christmas? Put on a fucking mask, for God's sakes. How hard is it?
I wear a mask every single day.
We're going to cancel Christmas. There'll be no economy.
When?
Oh my God. We better go. We better cut out.
Hey, Kook of the week, Mark Zuckerberg and his poo stance.
Yes, and the sunscreen.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. I cannot wait for these memes to go on forever in perpetuity. Like, this is going to...
You see, it was a motorized... It was like one of those motorized foils. Like, he had the motor in his hand. He's like, I'm just going to...
Of course it is. He's a tech dude. Of course he would have that. My must-see moment, in addition to your Jericho piece that we will post on spitpodcast.com, is Stab Magazine's Stab in the Dark All-Star Edition. They released this a while back, and it was you had to pay for it. They just put it out for free. It is the best edition yet. It's 55 minutes long. It's All-Star Edition in that it's the All-Star surfers that have done it in the past, all but Julian Wilson, and it's all the board builders who have won and the finalists. So Dane Reynolds, Mick Fanning, Jordy Smith. By the way, Jordy is surfing head and shoulders above Dane and Mick. I loved having 3 surfers riding the boards, chiming in instead of just one person, because not only are they giving varied feedback, but they're discussing it amongst one another. It now becomes a discussion rather than a monologue, and they're cluing each other into things that the other person didn't quite pick up. It's really, really remarkable. Another thing that is great about this is these guys have way more misses than they do hits. They struggle a lot. So for any listeners who get a brand new surfboard and think that they're going to unlock some magic out of it instantly, go and watch this. These guys struggle way more. Like, they have very little good to say about any of the boards and almost begrudgingly pick a winner amongst them. But it's not like they're shredding on every single board, and they're also not even loving the boards. So finding a magic board is tough, tough work. This is a great piece, Stab in the Dark All-Star Edition.
Cool. I look forward to seeing that. Thanks.
You're not going to watch it.
I am. I actually I very much like that stuff.
This will require a 50-minute commitment of watching surfing.
Tell me how it goes.
Exactly.
No, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, afternoon session.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back, I hope, Tuesday. Until then, adios and aloha.